So we're all springy today. It's 72 degrees outside. I wrote a couple of things over the past couple of nights. And then I thought to myself, how long is this, how dated is this material for me? How long have I had this sensibility? And I remembered reading some. So yeah, the sensibility I think that has found not very much validity in my culture, if you like, my culture, my civilization, in a sense, my tribe. I'm not keen on that word so much, or that concept. And then I remembered when I was 16, I finished school a year early, gratefully, and I was heading across country on a Greyhound bus to visit with my father, who was living and working in Berkeley, California. And I got on the bus and started down. I went down base Philadelphia, New Orleans, stuff like that. Came back up, all the way back up, crossing the country that I'd never seen. And I came to Chicago and then Minneapolis, St. Paul, many adventures along the way. And in Minneapolis, they noticed that my ticket, in the old days, they had those rubber stamps and they'd stamp your ticket. And so my ticket was stamped on like the 25th of June and was due to expire on the 25th of July, or whatever the date, or the 24th of July, whatever would have made 30 days. And they had stamped it wrong in Boston, so it was basically started on the 25th of June and then ended on the 26th of June. That's what had been, the rubber had stamped, they hadn't changed the June stamp. Anyway, so they said, well, you can't go any further on the Greyhound bus. And I was just I was just 16, dude. And I thought, oh, well, I hadn't really enjoyed the Greyhound bus very much. And I looked out of the bus station, which was dark, and there was this gleaming, bright Minnesota day outside. And I thought, well, I'll just go. I'll just walk out the door and hitchhike. My American geography was not great, but it wouldn't have made any difference. It wouldn't have made any difference if I was in Philadelphia. It was so beckoning to me. It was so Woody Guthrie, Jack Kerouac, that I couldn't resist. So, and of course, I called my mom, who panicked and said, "Oh gosh, and I'll call the bus stand. I'll read them the riot act and all the rest of it." And I said, "No, don't worry. I'm going to go. I'm just going to go. Bye." And I hung up and I walked on out. Anyway, so as a prelude to the story, that I was going by the Black Hills several days later with somebody was riding and some ride and I went by it and I was thinking, and I was writing songs in those days, not very good ones, but I remember I wrote a song and it had a line in it which is, "Hey white man, my brother, take the gleam from the blade of your song." Yes, I know it's awful, but that was the line in it. And so my reluctance to imagine, to find the trappings of the world that surround me very interesting or very compelling goes back till then. I was drawn by other things. I was moved by other things. Anyway, It was Prelude. I wrote a song. I actually wrote a decent song some 20 years later, which I might read later on, but anyway. Well, I'm out. That was easy and inevitable. Coming since I was 3, the early years in the third world have at last kicked in. I would be ashamed of Europe if I thought it had an integrity to lose. I would imagine that its present pathetic behaviors were due to an individual. That is what we usually do. That is the current American take. It's all his fault, ignoring the first law of their fatuous democracy. In a democracy, it's always your fault. It's one of the things you have to take responsibility for. Demonizing those who voted for the various hymns you didn't vote for is, yes, the cornerstone of fascism. That is the cornerstone of fascism. The convictions that the West hold dear, Rousseau and Islamophobia, root in its own nasty history of evolving supremacy. Its colonialism, the sin it can barely confess because its motivations are still so characteristic of it, so resilient, its shameful weakness in this ability to confess, to admit it is human, so typical, that it has just become a congregation of mewling kittens. See the revolting display at the Munich conference that will never grow up and shut up, etc., etc. So it's easy to go. My study now will be the Celts, not the abominations that crossed the Irish Sea and the English Channel with its supremacies and universities. As Yad Malmgren said in drama school, quote, "It is best to go back to where you stopped. Reclaim the healthy child and begin again," end quote. So I do. All brutalities, Celtic brutalities, I can accept and oppose because they were not, are not committed in the name of goodness. There in the old forests I have found the life sources, the fire and the ice, the indigenous European version of yin and yang for reference. Those religions who place this animal among the rest do not give, quote, dominion over the wind or the rain or the other animals. The forests are dark and they are talkative. Good luck with your nervous dominion, by the way, all you can see, crushed by the slightest hurricane or inquisition. You live in the bland lands that banishes every mystery, every accessible, and replaces it with bosses in the skies who know and see all, leaving you, therefore, naturally, stupid and blind. I do hear the echo of my footsteps. I am deaf to sermons. I have read the Bible. You haven't, so I do not need to believe it. You do. The British Labour Party is going to run around the country showing the children adolescents to teach them the evils of the internet. Laugh out loud. Watch it. Do. The culprit is obvious. A school administered, taught, and protected by halflings. Children with teaching degrees, fearful of their charges, shouting and whining. No, not the internet, you idiots. It's easy enough here to make the Andrew Tate plausible. He is, by the way, in every generation, every Prince Andrew, every Jeffrey Epstein, every Bill Clinton, long before the iPhone, finding easy pickings in the flock with its neurotic shepherds, their masculine and feminine so unsorted. It was the only moment of contrivance I thought I saw in the whole show. I have worked in schools in the US. There must be, even in England, always at least one genius headmistress, principal, or bull-like grizzled shop or history teacher whose shock horror likes the children. I had those teachers in droves in the US. If you cultivate a society that packs schools with ferocious youth, then hires cops and child psychiatrists to change them into the timid, stupid modern citizen you need to turn them into coders, you will have your society handed you on a melted plate. There once was an intuitive IQ in the Labour Party. It's contained in its title. Gone, gone, 'tis gone. If you are concerned about healthy children, triple your childminders, teachers, cops, coaches, older or slightly older, men and women, not forever rushing from job to pub or low, phone or laptop. Children look at phones and other screens like you do, adult, for what is absent elsewhere, knowledge and contact. If visceral society doesn't come up with these or rediscover them, they were there once in every teardrop falling in every blade of grass, the internet will beckon. It's not the internet's fault. I put these screeds on social media, asking, pleading sometimes for dialogue. It never happens. I do this because I hunt wisdom in the great library we call the internet, and I find it inadequate to the task. This is why I want to speak to other people. The stuff that other people write, the professionals write and put out there, is drivel. None of it is instinctive or visionary or anything. Deplorable, shall we say. Perhaps improvable by dialogue, the pedantic avoid for obvious reasons. I did watch the execrable but influential Jonathan Haidt dismantled by a college freshman one time. His hosts guffawed, thoughtless, and I thought, there's one for the revolution, one wrinkly dismantled easily in person when one can't talk back to his book, written for those who already agree. I cannot mourn the ages when children went to physical libraries and read this bigoted and limited stuff, this revision, took it for granted, and then invented the iPhone. You should know its inventions were not brought up on it. Its inventors were not brought up on it. That stands to reason. Do you believe the best actor is the richest one? How rich is Rachel Maddow? Does she deserve it? Is she worth it? Is anyone? We obviously think so. We might think we deserve it. We are all just temporarily inconvenienced millionaires. The myth to scorch, and throw out with the trash is the one that says anyone is worth more than they need. For one reason, there are many, but one reason for sure, the climate crisis. We need trains, not planes. We need all Elon's money to start that. America has created an economy that funnels money to people who do nothing. Go figure, are worth nothing, have earned nothing. Who employs the employees? The consumers. It was founded as a slave state. Let that thing sink in. Anyway, those days are gone. Employing people was an unavoidable collateral inconvenience for the rich in the old system, and they behaved accordingly. The rich person today has dispensed with employees. They have transcended Downton. Solution? My Spanish friend roared at me, enjoy something deeper than the vacant values of the wealthy, and cap real estate. That's all. The rest will follow. If you want to stop being took, stop being takeable. Insist that rent is affordable, that housing is affordable. You will change the world. Or if you like, take bricks from a bricklayer. You lose a wall and his or her sense of self. Take scaffolding from a scaffolder, flour from a baker, medicine from a doctor. They lose and we lose. Take money from a rich person, he loses. Nobody else.